I watched my wife lay my war medals out like yard sale junk. She called it decluttering. I called it erasing me. She thought she was selling metal for cash. She didn't check what was hidden in the box. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Raymond. I'm 68 years old, and this is what really happened. The first sound was the laptop chime. Sharp, clean, too cheerful for what it carried. I was in my den, the one with the old recliner and the faded American flag. I clicked the notification and saw my own bronze star on the screen. Same ribbon, same nicked clasp, same dull scratch I made in 1974. My vision tipped. The room didn't spin like a carnival. It spun like a warning. The listing title read, Vintage Military Metal Lot, Fast Shipping. A stranger's photos. My medals laid out on my wife's floral placemat. That little blue flower pattern was from Walmart. $10 last summer. I turned the volume down, like Betrayal might hear me. Then I listened anyway. The house was quiet except the HVAC and my breathing. In the kitchen, a wall clock tapped like a judge. The medals had always lived in a cedar trunk. Cedar has a smell you can't fake. Dry, sweet, old as promises. I kept that trunk under the window, behind my winter coats. I didn't keep them hidden because I was proud. I kept them hidden because pride is loud, and grief is louder. Some nights, the ribbons felt heavier than the metal. That afternoon, I wasn't looking for memories. I was looking for the warranty papers on our water heater. My wife, and Linda, swore she filed them somewhere safe. Linda loved somewhere safe. It meant a drawer I'd never think to open. It meant my things becoming her clutter, one item at a time. I'm not a man who panics. I did 2 tours, came home, raised kids, paid mortgages, but my hands went numb on that mouse. I clicked the seller page and scanned the username. Lakeside Reseller 33. The location was our county. The pickup option was marked local. My throat tightened, but I didn't give it the satisfaction. I took a slow breath through my nose. Then I did what the Army taught me to do. Confirm. Verify. Document. I opened a new tab and searched the image on the listing. Reverse image search. 3 seconds. No matches. These were original photos. I zoomed in until the pixels broke. There was my Purple Heart box in the corner, and it had a faint ink smudge on the lid from a leaking pen. That pen had been in my uniform pocket in Vietnam. The ink bled when it rained and we ran. Some stains never wash out. I grabbed my phone and took screenshots. 1, 2, 3. Then I emailed them to myself with a subject line. Evidence. Call it paranoia if you want. I call it experience. Paper trails save lives, even in peacetime. I stood up too fast and steadied myself on the desk. My knuckles tapped the wood, hard, like a code. The sound echoed off the framed photos on the wall. One was our wedding picture from '82, Linda in lace, me in a rented tux. Her smile back then looked like a promise, not a plan. Another was my retirement lunch, 10 years ago. Linda's hand on my shoulder. Bright eyes, perfect posture. She liked crowds when they clapped for us. Or Linda wasn't cruel in the usual way. She didn't scream, she didn't throw plates, she did something colder. She rewrote the story when you weren't watching. Our son, Mark, helped her with that. Mark's 41 now, always between jobs, always starting something. He had a talent for turning family into a loan. Dad, you don't need all that old stuff, Mark would say. It's just sitting there. He said it like the word old was a verdict. My daughter, Erin, is different. Erin's 36, runs a clinic in Chicago. She still calls me sir when she's teasing. Erin knew what the trunk meant. She'd seen me stare at it after bad nights. She never asked questions I wasn't ready to answer. Linda did ask. Not with kindness, with impatience, with that little sigh, like I was keeping secrets from her on purpose. I scrolled further down the listing. Oh, the price was higher than I expected. Someone had already placed a bid. A bid on my life. A bid on my dead friends' names. A bid on my silence. I clicked the description and felt my jaw tighten. Estate cleanout, it said. Found in storage. Estate. Like I was already gone. I looked toward the hallway, half expecting Linda to step in. The house stayed still. Only the clock kept talking. I forced myself to sit. The chair creaked under me, familiar and tired. I stared at the seller details again, hunting for a mistake. There was an email address partially masked by the site, but the first letter and the domain showed. L and then Gmail. Linda's first name starts with L, so does liar, so does last chance. I wanted to march into the kitchen and demand answers. I wanted to slam the laptop shut and pretend I didn't see it. But I've learned something about marriage and war. The first impulse is usually the one that gets you killed, so I went quiet. Quiet doesn't mean weak. Quiet means you're choosing the battlefield. I opened the listing photos again, slower this time. I studied the background like it was reconnaissance. I wasn't looking at medals anymore. I was looking for fingerprints. There was a corner of our dining table in the frame. There was a familiar yellow envelope near the medals, half under the placemat. It was the kind you get from the county clerk's office, the kind with raised lettering when you rub it. My pulse kicked once, not panic, focus, because I knew that envelope and I knew that paper. I had signed it last spring at the courthouse. County Court Record Number 2025-CV-11873, stamped and filed. Oh, and the signature was witnessed by Notary Public Carla Jensen. That record wasn't about divorce. It was about something I'd prepared in case life got ugly. Something Linda never bothered to ask about. A detail in a box. A detail in a lining. A detail people ignore when they think you're finished. I leaned closer until my nose almost touched the screen. The username, the county, the local pickup, the floral placemat under my medals. Then I clicked the seller profile to see who I was really dealing with. The page loaded, and my hand didn't shake once. The page loaded, and my hand didn't shake once. A little circular avatar popped up. A pale blue lake with a cartoon heron. Under it, the name, Linda H. No last name, just enough to hide behind. The contact button offered message seller, and beneath that, request local pickup. Pickup, not shipping, not a distant buyer in Arizona, someone nearby, someone who could be in my driveway by sundown. I clicked into the message thread. The buyer's profile name read, Tom A., post 214. My eyes locked on it, because I knew that name. Tom Alvarez ran the front desk at our American Legion Hall in Ridgeview. He was the kind of man who shook your hand like it mattered. He'd been trying to build a small veterans display case for the local high school. Last month he told me, Ray, those kids don't know what sacrifice looks like. I'd nodded and changed the subject, because I didn't like being looked at as a symbol. Now his message sat on my screen like a flare in the dark. Ma'am, I can pick up tomorrow evening. These would mean a lot for the display. and Linda's reply was already there. E-cash only. Exact change. I clicked Request Local Pickup anyway, and the site showed the window. Tomorrow. 6:30 p.m. The location field was blurred for privacy, but I recognized the zip code. Our zip code. I stared at those 5 numbers like they were coordinates on a map. I'd marched through worse places than this. Still, the sting was different when the enemy wore your last name. I backed out and opened my email on the laptop. Not because I expected her to be careless, because people get sloppy when they think you're harmless. Linda keeps a shared household Gmail for bills and coupons. I never liked it, but she insisted it was organized. The password was still the same as our first dog's name. I signed in and typed the marketplace name into the search bar. 3 results, all from this week. My stomach tightened, but I kept my face calm, even alone. Subject line, your listing is live. Sender, the marketplace. Recipient, linda.henderson33@gmail.com. There it was. The whole thing, plain as daylight. The confirmation email, the photos attached, the price, and the pickup message, already answered. Hi, yes, local pickup works, cash only. Please bring exact change. Signed, Linda, cash only, exact change. Like she was selling a used blender, not a piece of my history. I sat back and let the air move through my lungs. The vent above the door exhaled warm, dusty heat. Under it, the den held the faint smell of old cedar and motor oil. Cedar. That trunk smell. It rose in my mind before I even stood up, like the house itself was reminding me where to go. I pushed the chair back and walked down the hall. Each step felt measured, not heavy. Measured. While the carpet muffled my shoes, like it was trying to keep secrets. The spare room was at the end, past the laundry closet. Linda called it the storage room. I called it the graveyard, because that's where my things went to disappear. I opened the door, and the smell hit me right away. Cedar, yes, but older now. Dry wood, mothballs, and the faint bite of detergent from nearby towels. The cedar trunk sat exactly where it always sat. Under the window, half behind my winter coats. The brass latch looked untouched. For a moment, I let myself hope. That I was wrong. That the listing was fake. That this was some mistake that would disappear if I lifted the lid. My hands found the latch. Cold metal, familiar shape. I flipped it up and opened the trunk. Empty. Well, not mostly empty. Not tidied. Empty like someone had scooped my life out with a shovel. The velvet trays were gone. The small cases. The envelope I kept tucked beneath. Only a square shadow remained where the boxes used to sit. And a thin layer of cedar dust, disturbed by fresh fingerprints. I swallowed and forced my eyes to keep working. Panic is loud. I didn't give it a voice. I leaned in and smelled the inside of the trunk. It was sharp cedar, but underneath it was something new. Lavender. Linda's drawer sachets. She'd been in here recently, trying to make it smell like hers. I reached along the corners, feeling for anything she missed. My fingers brushed a scrap of tissue paper. Then a cardboard divider, ripped and shoved aside. In the bottom right corner, half under the lining, I found one box. Not the whole set. Well, just one. A Purple Heart presentation box, scuffed at the edges. The kind the VA clerk had handed me with both hands. The kind you don't sell unless you don't understand what it cost. I lifted it, and the hinge squeaked softly. The metal inside was gone, but the box felt wrong in my palm. Too light where it should be heavy, and thick where it should be flat. I turned it over and pressed my thumb along the velvet. The velvet didn't lie smooth. It bulged near the seam, like something was breathing under it. My nose caught that cedar smell again, stronger now. Cedar and paper. Old paper. Paper that had been folded and unfolded 100 times. Linda sold the metals because she thought they were just objects. She thought the value was on the surface. But she never bothered to check the lining. She never ran her thumb along that seam. She never asked why that one box stayed sealed for years. Because inside that lining was the one thing I could never bring myself to throw away. And I remembered exactly what it was. And I remembered exactly what it was. I carried the Purple Heart box back to the den like it was fragile glass. Not because of the metal. That was already gone. Because of what rested beneath the velvet lining. I shut the den door before I sat down. The late afternoon light cut through the blinds in narrow gold strips. Dust floated in the beams like quiet witnesses. I slid a letter opener under the seam. Slow. Careful. The adhesive gave way with a soft, tearing sound. Inside the lining was a folded piece of yellowed paper. Thin, creased, soft at the edges from years of being handled. I hadn't unfolded it in over a decade, so I held it to my nose for a second. Old paper has a scent. Dry, slightly sweet, like time pressed between pages. The handwriting was firm and angled. Captain William Harrow, my commanding officer in 1974. Sergeant Henderson, it began. Not Ray, not son, not friend. Sergeant. The letter was written 2 weeks after we came home. 2 weeks after Michael Turner didn't. Michael had been 19, freckles across his nose, a laugh too loud for the jungle. The mission was supposed to be short, in and out. Secure a position and extract. We took fire before sunrise, the kind that splits the air open, the kind that doesn't ask your age. Michael covered our flank when the first rounds came in. He moved without hesitation. He moved because I told him to. When the dust settled, I was still breathing. He wasn't. The Bronze Star was for leadership under fire. The Purple Heart was for the shrapnel that caught my shoulder. Neither medal carried his name. Captain Harrow wrote the letter because paperwork couldn't say what mattered. You carried them out, he wrote. You refused to leave Turner behind. You did what a leader does, even when it costs him. The final paragraph was the part I never read aloud. Michael's mother asked me if anyone stayed with him at the end. I told her yes, that someone did. I had stayed, even when the gunfire had stopped, even when the air felt too thin to hold a breath. I folded the letter back slowly and laid it on my desk. Beside it, I pulled out the second item hidden in the lining, a notarized authentication certificate, stamped by the Department of Veterans Affairs, signed and verified years after the war. And tucked behind that was a third document, thicker paper, modern ink, the charter agreement for the Turner Henderson Memorial Scholarship Fund, filed last spring. County Court Record Number 2025 CV11873. The foundation director, Margaret Lewis, had convinced me to formalize it. Legacy doesn't survive in a trunk, she'd said. It survives in records. The fund was modest, seeded with my savings, designated for graduating seniors entering military service. Beneficiary clause included my surviving family. If I passed, Oversight would transfer to the Ridgeview Veterans Foundation, not to Linda, not to Mark. Linda had never asked what I did at the courthouse last April. She assumed it was estate paperwork, assumed she would inherit everything by default. She never read the fine print. And I leaned back and closed my eyes for a moment. The house hummed around me. The refrigerator kicked on in the kitchen. This wasn't about money. It was about erasure. She didn't just list metals. She labeled them estate cleanout, like I was already a memory she could sort through. I picked up my phone and scrolled to Margaret's number. I hadn't planned to call her until next month. We were supposed to announce the scholarship at the July 4th ceremony. My thumb hovered over the screen. Confront Linda now, or let the board see what she tried to sell? I pressed call. Margaret answered on the third ring. Her voice carried that steady, practiced warmth. Raymond, this is a surprise. Margaret, we were going to surprise you next week. Me, looks like the surprise came early. Silence stretched for a second. Not awkward. Alert. When I explained what I found, the listing, the pickup, the missing metals, I didn't raise my voice once. Margaret listened without interrupting. When I finished, she exhaled slowly. Margaret, Ray, those metals are listed as artifacts under the scholarship exhibit plan. Me, I'm aware. Margaret, if they're sold privately, that complicates the registration. Complicates. A polite word for legal mess. Margaret, the board has already drafted your keynote invitation for July 4th. Me, I didn't agree to speak. Margaret, you didn't refuse either. She paused. Margaret, you understand what this looks like, don't you? Me, I do. Margaret, it looks like someone trying to dismantle a legacy before it's unveiled. The words landed steady, not dramatic, not exaggerated, just accurate. I stared at the screenshots on my laptop again, saw the floral placemat, the listing title, the cash-only pickup. Me, Tom Alvarez is the buyer. Margaret, post 214? Me, yes. Another pause. Margaret, he's on our advisory committee. Me, I figured. The house felt smaller suddenly, the den walls closer than before, the late light fading into shadow. Margaret, Ray, do you want us to intervene formally? Me, not yet. Margaret, then what do you want? I looked at the Purple Heart box in my hand, at the slit in the velvet where the letter had hidden for years. Me, I want the truth to walk into my driveway tomorrow at 6:30. Margaret, understood. She cleared her throat softly. Margaret, we were going to surprise you, Ray. Me, with what? Margaret, the scholarship board voted unanimously. The exhibit wing will carry your name alongside Turner's. I didn't answer right away. Margaret, Raymond Henderson Memorial Wing, joint dedication. Me, he deserves top billing. Margaret, he'll have it. The light in the room dimmed another shade. Evening settling in. Margaret, are you prepared for this to become public? Me, it already is. Margaret, then we'll stand behind you. I ended the call and set the phone down gently. No shaking, no shouting, just a quiet understanding. Tomorrow at 6:30 p.m., my driveway would hold more than a buyer. It would hold a decision. And for the first time since I saw that listing, the room didn't spin. And for the first time since I saw that listing, the room didn't spin. By dinner, Linda was home from her shift at the real estate office. Well, she set her purse on the counter like she always did. Keys in the ceramic bowl, shoes by the mat. The smell of garlic filled the kitchen. She was sautéing chicken in the cast-iron skillet. Ordinary sounds, ordinary smells, an ordinary betrayal. Mark was already at the table, scrolling his phone. He'd stopped by again, which meant he needed something. "Hey, Dad," he said without looking up. His tone carried that careful patience he used with me lately, like I was fragile glass. I washed my hands at the sink and took my seat. The faucet ran a little too long. Water hides a lot of thoughts. Linda moved around the kitchen briskly, hair tied back, jaw set. She didn't look at me directly. "So," she said, light and casual, "I cleared out some junk today." Junk. She plated the chicken and slid it in front of Mark first, then me, and her smile didn't reach her eyes. Mark glanced up. "About time. That spare room was a museum." A museum. I cut into the chicken slowly. Steam rose in thin white lines. My fork made a small scraping sound on the plate. "What kind of junk?" I asked. Linda waved her hand like she was swatting a fly. "Old boxes. Stuff we don't use, it's just taking up space." Space. Mark nodded. "You gotta let go of the past, Dad. You can't live in it." I looked at him for a long second. He shifted in his chair but didn't break eye contact. "I don't live in it," I said. "I just don't sell it." Linda's knife paused midair, just for a second. Then she resumed cutting. "You're being dramatic," she said. "It was just metal." Metal. The word sat on the table like something spoiled. I took a sip of water. Cold, clean, controlled. "You listed them online," I said. Mark looked between us. Linda's shoulders stiffened. "I had to," she replied. "Mark's truck needs repairs, and the property taxes are due." There it was. Mark cleared his throat. "Dad, it's temporary. I'll pay you back." I didn't answer him. "Cash only," I said, looking at Linda. "Exact change." Her eyes flicked up, sharp, defensive. "People scam online," she said quickly. "I'm not stupid." No, she wasn't stupid. She just underestimated me. "You labeled it an estate cleanout," I continued. Mark frowned. "What's wrong with that?" Linda set her fork down harder than necessary. "I needed the listing to sound professional." Professional. The kitchen felt tighter now, the air heavier. "You didn't think to ask me," I said. "I tried for years," she shot back. "You never talk about that stuff. You lock it away and act like it doesn't exist." Her voice trembled, not with guilt, but frustration. "I'm tired of competing with ghosts, Ray." The words hit harder than the listing. Mark leaned forward. "Mom's right. You shut down whenever it comes up. It's just stuff." Stuff. I placed my fork down carefully, aligned it with the edge of the plate. "It's not just stuff," I said evenly. "And tomorrow at 6:30, you'll understand why." Linda's eyes narrowed. "What happens at 6:30? "The buyer," I said. "He's coming here." Mark blinked. "You told him our address?" "No," I replied. "You did." Silence didn't fall. It pressed. Linda stood and began collecting plates. Her movements were tight, clipped. "You're overreacting," she said. "We needed the money. Now you don't even look at those medals." I watched her rinse the dishes, water splashing, ceramic clinking. I look at them every day, I said softly. Just not the way you think. Mark pushed back his chair. Dad, this is ridiculous. It's not like you're giving a speech about them or something. I held his gaze. Actually, I said, I am. Linda turned slowly. What are you talking about? I stood and walked to the den doorway. The purple heart box sat on my desk, velvet seam slightly lifted. There's a reason I went to county court last April, I said. Record number 2025-CV-11873. Mark's face changed. Confusion, then calculation. Linda wiped her hands on a dish towel. What record? You never asked, I replied. I picked up my phone and forwarded the email Margaret sent earlier. On subject line, July 4th dedication, Memorial Wing. I sent it to both of them. Their phones buzzed almost simultaneously. Mark looked down first. His jaw shifted. Linda read slower, her expression drained of color. You named something after yourself? Mark asked. Not just myself, I said. Linda's voice came out thin. You were going to do this without telling me? You were going to sell it without asking me. Her hand tightened around the towel. You think this is about money? I asked quietly. Isn't it? Mark snapped. I stepped fully into the den and gestured toward the desk. Tomorrow, I said, when Tom Alvarez from Post 214 pulls into this driveway, you can explain to him why you called a memorial artifact junk. Linda's eyes widened. Tom? From the Legion? Yes. Mark swallowed. Now the house seemed to shift around us, not spinning, shifting. You set this up, Linda whispered. No, I said. You did. I walked back to the kitchen and picked up my water glass. Pickup is tomorrow, I said evenly. 6:30 p.m. Then I carried the Purple Heart box back to the den and closed the door behind me. Then I carried the Purple Heart box back to the den and closed the door behind me. The next evening, the cul-de-sac filled with that after-work quiet. Garage doors groaned. A kid bounced a basketball 2 houses down. Inside, our entryway felt too narrow for what was coming. Linda hovered near the front window, checking her phone. Mark sat at the kitchen island, tapping his foot like a metronome. He kept watching the driveway through the blinds. At 6:18 p.m., I moved the Purple Heart box into a plain cardboard carton. With no ribbons, no display, just brown paper and tape. Inside, I laid 3 things in order: Harrow's letter, the notarized certificate, the charter. I sealed the top, then loosened the tape edge so it would open with one pull, so nothing would look rehearsed. At 6:29, the porch camera caught headlights turning onto our street. They rolled past the neighbor's flagpole and stopped at our curb. A gray Ford Ranger, clean, modest. The driver stepped out with an empty plastic tote. Tom Alvarez, Post 214 chapter, khaki jacket. Linda opened the door before he could knock. Linda, hi, you must be Tom. Tom, yes ma'am, appreciate you meeting. These are for the display case. Linda, cash only, like I said. Tom's eyes flicked past her and landed on me in the hallway. His face tightened with surprise. Tom, Ray? Me. Evening? Tom. The space between us filled fast. Linda stood in the doorway like a gate. Mark hovered behind her shoulder, watching like this was a deal. Tom offered his hand anyway. Warm. Calloused. Tom, I didn't realize this was your home. Me. You do now? Linda's smile sharpened. Linda, Raymond's being sensitive. He hasn't looked at those in years. Tom. No judgment, ma'am. I'm just here for the items. Tom held up a folded stack of bills. Tom. Exact change. Linda. Perfect. I'll grab the box. Me. No. One word. Calm. Hard. Linda froze. Mark's eyebrows lifted. Tom shifted his weight, unsure if he should back up. Me. I'll bring it. Linda. Ray, don't. Me. You already did. I walked to the den, lifted the carton, and returned. It wasn't heavy, but it carried weight anyway. History weight. I set it on the foyer table. At me. Before money changes hands, you'll see what you're buying. Linda. He saw the pictures. Tom. A quick look is fine. I pulled the tape open and spread the flaps. Packing paper rustled loud in that tight entryway. Even the air felt crowded. I lifted out the Purple Heart presentation box. Tom's posture straightened without thinking. Tom. That's real. Me. It's mine. Linda waved a hand, dismissive. Linda. That one's empty. The medals are in the other. Me. Stop. I opened the box. Empty velvet cradle. Tom's brow furrowed. Tom. Where's the medal? Linda. It's part of the lot. I separated. Me. She already shipped the rest. Mark's head snapped toward Linda. Mark. Mom? Linda. It's business. People pay more in pieces. Tom's mouth tightened. He looked at me like he'd stepped into the wrong kind of room. Tom. Ray? But I'm sorry. I thought I was helping. Me. You are. Stand right there. I pressed my thumb along the velvet seam and lifted the lining. The hidden pocket opened like a secret. Linda's eyes widened. Mark leaned closer. Tom leaned in too. I pulled out the folded letter first and held it so Tom could see the signature. Captain William Harrow. Tom. Harrow, 3rd Battalion. Me. Yes. Then I slid out the notarized certificate. The seal caught the foyer light, glossy and official. Last, the Foundation Charter. Tom read the header and went still. Tom. Turner Henderson Memorial Scholarship Fund. His voice thinned. Mark scanned down the page fast. His face tightened at the beneficiary clause. Mark. Dad. What is this? Linda reached, but I covered the papers with my hand. Not angry. Final. Me. Don't. Tom turned to Linda, steady. Tom. Ma'am, you told me this was an estate cleanout. Linda. It is. Tom. He's standing right here. Outside, a neighbor's sprinkler clicked on and off. Inside, the entryway felt packed with eyes and breath. Tom folded the cash back into his wallet, slow, like sudden motion might make this uglier. Tom. Ray, I can't buy this. Linda. Excuse me? Tom. Not like this. Not from him. Mark's voice went sharp. Mark. Tom. It's not your business. Tom. It became my business when you put a Purple Heart up for cash. Linda's mask cracked. Linda. You're embarrassing me in my own house. Me. You did that yourself. Tom looked at the documents again. Tom. Do you want me to call Margaret Lewis? I watched Linda's fingers curl around the doorframe. I watched Mark's eyes search for an angle. Then I nodded once. Me. Call her. And stay. Tom lifted his phone. And I kept my hand on the papers, because the next voice on that line would change everything. And I kept my hand on the papers, because the next voice on that line would change everything. Tom put the phone on speaker. The tiny grill hissed once. Then Margaret's voice came through, clear as courthouse marble. Margaret. Tom? Is Raymond with you? Tom. Yes, ma'am. I'm at his address. The listing. It's worse than I thought. Linda's chin lifted like she was being cross-examined. Mark folded his arms and stood closer to her, blocking half the doorway. Me. Margaret, I have the charter in my hand. Margaret. Then you have standing. Don't hand anything over. Tom glanced at the cash in his wallet, then pushed it deeper into his pocket. He looked embarrassed, but he didn't leave. Tom. Ma'am, the seller claimed it was an estate clean-out. Margaret. That phrase has legal consequences, Tom. Linda scoffed. Short, cutting. Linda. Legal consequences? For selling old metals? Margaret. For misrepresenting a charitable asset tied to a registered fund, yes. The air in the foyer felt warmer, like the house had turned the heat up on purpose. Linda's cheeks reddened. Mark. This is ridiculous. Mom's not a criminal. Margaret. No one said that. But this is now a board matter. A board matter. Linda hated boards, committees, people with minutes and votes. She liked conversations she could steer. Linda. You people act like he's some hero. Her eyes snapped toward me. Linda. He's just a man who won't let anyone touch his boxes. My voice stayed even. Not me. Those boxes have a name on them. Linda. Your name. Me. Michael Turner's name. Tom shifted. The post. 214 cap in his hand looked suddenly too small. He knew the name now. He could feel it. Margaret. Raymond, listen carefully. Do not argue. Do not sign anything tonight. Me. I'm not signing a thing. Margaret. Good. Tom, I need you to witness what you saw. Tom. I can do that. Margaret. Then write down the time, the listing ID, and that you observed the charter documents. Mark stepped forward, voice rising. Mark, this is a setup. You called your little foundation friend to humiliate Mom. Me. You humiliated her when you let her believe you were worth it. Mark's face flashed with anger. He opened his mouth, then shut it, like the words didn't come out right. Linda's hands fluttered toward the carton again. Was Linda. Give me those papers. That's private. Me. Not anymore. I slid the charter agreement out and held it higher, away from her reach. I pointed to the bottom right where the stamp sat. County Court Record Number 2025-CV-11873, I said. Signed by Notary Public Carla Jensen. Linda stared at the stamp like it had teeth. She didn't know what to do with official ink. Margaret. Raymond. I'm notifying our counsel tonight. Linda. Counsel? For what? Margaret. To protect the fund from unauthorized disposal. Mark laughed, but it sounded thin. Mark. Unauthorized? It's his stuff. Margaret. It is governed by an agreement your father filed. That is the point of filing. Tom lowered his eyes for a second, then spoke softly. Tom, ma'am, I serve too, so we don't sell Purple Hearts like yard sale plates. Linda. I didn't sell a Purple Heart. It was empty. Tom. You listed it in the photos. That's enough. Linda's shoulders tightened. She grabbed her phone and began tapping fast, like she could erase the internet. Linda. Fine. I'll take the listing down. Me. After you already shipped the rest? Linda, I can refund them. Me, and how do you refund a memory? That line slipped out before I could stop it. It didn't sound dramatic. It sounded tired. Margaret. Raymond, I'm sending 2 emails. One is notice for counsel. Mark. Why? Margaret. Because they need to understand what they interfered with. Linda's eyes widened. Linda, you're trying to turn him against us. Margaret, I'm trying to keep a scholarship from becoming a pawn. Tom's phone buzzed once, then again, and he checked it, then nodded. Tom, I just got a text from Post 214. They saw the listing too. Mark, how? Tom, we share leads. People donate. Somebody recognized the ribbon. Linda's face drained. A neighbor could have seen it. A client. A church friend. Her reputation lived on that street like a second mortgage. Tom, ma'am, I'm sorry, but folks are upset. Linda, upset doesn't pay bills. Tom, respect pays in ways you don't understand. Mark snapped back. Mark, stop preaching. You're not the morality police. Tom, I'm not policing. I'm choosing not to participate. Margaret, Raymond, I'm also notifying the high school principal. The display was planned. Linda, you told the school? Me. Not her. Me. Linda's mouth opened, then closed. She looked from Tom to me to the carton, like she could rearrange the scene. Me. Linda, you framed this as decluttering. Linda, it was. Me. No, it was erasing. Mark pointed a finger at me, shaking. Mark, you're doing this because you hate me. Me. I don't hate you. Mark, then why? Me. Because you're 41 and still spending my bones. That one landed. Mark's eyes flickered. He looked away first. Margaret. Now the second email is the July 4th dedication invitation. I refreshed my inbox. The subject line appeared, bright and unavoidable. July 4th dedication, Turner Henderson Memorial Wing, keynote invitation. I opened it and felt the floor steady under me. It wasn't revenge yet. It was structure. It was record. Me. I see it. Margaret. Forward that invitation to Linda and Mark, tonight, and copy Tom. Linda swallowed hard. Linda. If you do that, you can't take it back. Me. Neither can you. I hit forward. I added Linda. I added Mark. I added Aaron in Chicago. Then I added Tom Alvarez, Post 214. My thumb hovered over send for half a second. Not hesitation. Acceptance. Then I tapped it. Then I tapped it. The email left my outbox with a soft whoosh. Small sound. Permanent effect. Linda's phone buzzed almost instantly. Mark checked his, too. The subject line glowed on both screens. There was no pretending now. No one spoke for a moment. Not silence like fear. Silence like something had shifted its weight. Tom cleared his throat gently. Tom. Ray, I'll step outside if you want privacy. Me. No, stay. Because this wasn't private anymore. Linda's voice came out tight. Linda, you're dragging everyone into this. Me. You listed it publicly. Linda, that's not the same. Me. It is. Mark paced toward the kitchen, running his hand through his hair. Mark. Dad. You're blowing this up. We needed help. Me. Then you ask. Mark. You never listen. Me. I listen. I just don't fund denial. Linda's eyes snapped toward me. Linda, you think this is about Mark? Me, isn't it? Linda, it's about you. The word hung between us. Linda, you shut down after the war, after retirement, after everything. You disappear into that room. Her hand pointed toward the den. Linda, those medals are the only time you look alive. That one hit deeper than she knew. Tom shifted uncomfortably, but he didn't interrupt. He understood when a wound wasn't his to treat. Linda's voice cracked, but not with softness. On Linda, I have spent 40 years living with someone who's half here. Me. And you thought selling them would fix that? Linda, I thought maybe you'd finally talk. I looked at the purple heart box still open on the foyer table. The lining peeled back, the letter exposed. I did talk, I said quietly. You just didn't like the language. Mark stopped pacing. Mark, what language? Me. The kind that doesn't fit at Thanksgiving. I picked up Harrow's letter and unfolded it again. The paper rustled softly. I never showed you this, I said. Linda didn't reach for it this time. She watched. I read the first paragraph aloud. Not loud, not theatrical, just steady. When I reached the line about Michael's mother asking who stayed with him, my voice thinned. Mark's face shifted. Mark, who's Michael? Me, 19 years old. To Kansas, freckles. Linda stared at the floor. I told his mother someone stayed, I said. I didn't tell her I was the one who gave the order that put him there. The house felt heavier now. The air thicker. I got the Bronze Star, I continued. He got a folded flag. Tom's jaw tightened. He'd heard versions of this before, but never from me. Linda whispered, almost to herself, You never told me that. No, I said, because you wanted medals, not names. Mark rubbed his forehead. Mark, Dad, you were following orders. Me, I was the order. The words landed flat, honest, not dramatic. I folded the letter and slid it back toward the lining. I kept the medals boxed because I didn't deserve to polish them, I said. They weren't trophies. They were reminders. Linda's eyes filled, but she blinked it back fast. Hey, Linda, so I'm the villain now? Me. No, you're the person who didn't ask what the box held. Tom looked at me, steady. Tom. Ray, the exhibit isn't about glorifying you. Me. I know. Tom. It's about context. Context. That word felt different than hero. Mark exhaled hard. Mark. So what now? You parade this at the Legion and humiliate Mom? Me. No. I picked up the charter agreement again. I stand at that podium and say Michael Turner's name. And I make sure no one forgets it. Linda's shoulders sagged slightly. Linda. You could have told me. Me. You could have asked. The front yard light flicked on automatically as dusk settled. Through the window, the cul-de-sac glowed soft and ordinary. Inside, nothing felt ordinary anymore. Tom's phone buzzed again. He glanced down. Now, Tom, the board's already discussing this. Linda. Discussing what? Tom. How to handle it publicly. Linda looked at me sharply. Linda. Publicly? Me. You listed it publicly. That line didn't need volume. Mark leaned against the wall, deflated. Mark. I didn't think it was this big. Me. You didn't think it was anything. Aaron's name lit up on my phone then. Chicago area code. I looked at Linda once before answering. "Hi, sweetheart," I said. Aaron's voice came through tight and controlled. Aaron. "Dad, is it true?" Me. "Yes." Aaron. "Mom listed your medals?" Me. "Yes." There was a pause. Aaron. "I just read the dedication email." Me. "You weren't supposed to find out like this." Aaron. "I'm glad I did." Linda turned away, staring into the kitchen. Aaron's voice softened. "Yes, Aaron. Dad. I'm proud of you." Me. "For what?" Aaron. "For finally not hiding." I closed my eyes for half a second. Not hiding. Linda wiped her hands on her jeans. Linda. "Put her on speaker." I hesitated. Then I did. Aaron's voice filled the foyer. Aaron. "Mom?" Linda. "I was trying to help." Aaron. "By selling his service?" Linda didn't answer. Aaron exhaled slowly. Aaron. "Dad, whatever you decide, I'm with you." I looked at the Purple Heart box one more time. The lining open, the letter visible, and I realized something. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about witness. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about witness. The next 3 days moved fast and slow at the same time. Emails stacked up, phone calls multiplied. The house felt like it was listening. The listing came down within the hour that night, and refund requests were sent. Tracking numbers reversed. But screenshots don't disappear, and neither do first impressions. By Friday afternoon, the Ridgeview Veterans Hall had confirmed the July 4th dedication would proceed as scheduled. Tom texted me the final flyer. Turner Henderson Memorial Wing. My name was second. I didn't argue. The morning of the event, the sky was sharp blue. July heat already rising from the pavement. Flags lined Main Street like stitched reminders. Linda didn't ask what time I was leaving. She stood at the kitchen counter stirring coffee she didn't drink. Mark had stopped coming by. Aaron flew in from Chicago the night before. She sat across from me at breakfast, quiet but steady. She looked more like her mother in that light. "You ready?" she asked. "No," I said. But that's never stopped me." She smiled at that. It was the first easy moment in days. The Veterans Hall smelled like old wood and coffee grounds. Folding chairs were lined in straight rows. A brass quartet tuned softly near the stage. Tom greeted us at the door. Tom. "Glad you came, Ray." Me. "I said I would." Tom. "That means something." Aaron squeezed my arm once before taking a seat near the front. I walked toward the stage slower than I used to walk anywhere. On the wall behind the podium hung a new plaque. Polished walnut. Gold lettering. Turner Henderson Memorial Wing. Below it, a glass display case waited empty. The medals would be mounted there once returned. Returned. 2 of the buyers had already shipped theirs back after Tom contacted them. The third was pending. Community moves faster than pride sometimes, as Margaret approached with a folder tucked under her arm. Margaret. "Raymond, the press isn't here." Me. "Good." Margaret. "This is for the right reasons." She handed me the final speech outline. I didn't look at it. "I'll speak from memory," I said. The quartet finished tuning. The room filled gradually. Neighbors, veterans, a few high school students. I spotted Mr. Delaney from 2 houses down. Anson and Mrs. Carter from church. Faces that would have seen the listing if they'd looked. Linda did not come. That wasn't my request. That was her choice. When they called my name, I stood without rush. The wood floor creaked under my steps. I reached the podium and adjusted the microphone once. The room held steady. "I'm Raymond Henderson," I began. 68 years old. A few nods. A few veterans straightened. "I did not ask for my name on that wall," I continued. "And I do not stand here because of a medal." I paused and let the heat of the room settle. "I stand here because a 19-year-old boy from Kansas followed my order." No music, no applause, just breath. I told them about Michael, about the rain, about the ink-stained pen. I did not polish the story. I did not soften it. "The Bronze Star says leadership," I said. "The Purple Heart says injury." I looked toward the empty display case. "But neither says guilt." The word hung heavier than any ribbon. "I kept those medals boxed because I thought silence was respect," I said. I was wrong. A veteran in the third row wiped his eye. Another nodded once, firm. "Respect is saying the name out loud," I said. "Respect is building something that outlives you." I stepped aside then, letting Margaret approach the microphone. She announced the scholarship formally. She read the charter summary. She confirmed the legal protections. And then she said something I hadn't expected. "The Turner Henderson Scholarship Fund is now irrevocably transferred to Foundation oversight." Irrevocably. The word echoed clean. "In accordance with County Court Record Number 2025-CV-11873, she added, "and signed by Notary Public Carla Jensen." Legal ink carries weight in small towns. Mark stood in the back near the exit. I hadn't noticed him come in. His face was pale. He understood now. The fund would not move. The fund would not bend. The fund would not be liquidated for truck repairs, Margaret concluded. Yes, and the quartet began a soft instrumental version of "America the Beautiful." No standing ovation, just steady applause. That was enough. Tom approached the display case with 2 medals already returned. He placed them gently on velvet stands. The glass reflected the overhead lights. My reflection stood beside them. Older, thinner, clearer. Mark met my eyes from across the hall. He didn't look angry anymore. He looked recalculating. And I knew the real confrontation hadn't happened yet. Mark caught me near the hallway by the trophy case, away from the crowd. His eyes kept drifting to the plaque like it was a scoreboard. "Mark, Dad, can we talk?" "Me." "Say it." Aaron stood a few steps behind me, arms crossed. Tom lingered by the door with a clipboard, was pretending not to listen. "Mark, Mom said it was just stuff." "Me, and you liked that story." "Mark, she said the taxes were behind." "Me, they weren't." His jaw worked like he was chewing shame. "Mark, is the fund really irrevocable?" "Me, yes." "Mark, so there's no way to, me, finish that sentence and we're done." He went still. Then his voice dropped. "Mark, she wants to talk tonight." "Me, at the house?" "Mark, yeah, me. Tell her I'll be there." He hesitated. "Mark, she's scared you'll leave." "Me. She should have been scared before she clicked post." He flinched and backed away into the crowd. The drive home felt longer than it was. Fireworks popped somewhere over the river, early and careless. Aaron rode quiet in the passenger seat, watching porch lights pass like slow signals. When we turned onto our street, when the flag on our mailbox hung limp in the heat, I noticed it because I notice symbols now. They either stand or they get sold. By the time we got home, the porch light was already on. Linda had pulled the blinds closed tight. The living room smelled like lemon cleaner, sharp and new, like she'd tried to erase the day. She was sitting on the couch with her purse in her lap, not watching TV, just waiting. Erin stayed by the entryway. She wasn't going to referee. She was going to witness. Linda looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. Linda, you humiliated me. Me, you sold my war. Linda, you made me look like a monster. Me, you listed me as dead. Her lips pressed together. Linda, I panicked. Me, no, you calculated. Me, cash only, exact change. She winced, like I'd slapped her with a receipt. Linda, Mark needed help. Me, Mark needed boundaries. Linda, you always talk like you're above it. Me, I'm tired of paying for it. She stood and paced 2 steps, then turned back. The lemon smell followed her like a shield. Linda, do you know what it's like living with a man who disappears? Me, do you know what it's like living with what I brought back? Linda, I lived with it too. Me, you lived beside it. I lived inside it. Her eyes filled, and this time she didn't blink it away. Linda, I'm tired, Ray, of the trunk, the locked room, the nights you stare at nothing. Me, I wasn't staring at nothing. Me, I was counting who didn't come home. That slowed her. I held her gaze steady. Me, you tried to erase me. Linda, I tried to wake you up. Me, you called it an estate cleanout. The words landed like a stamp, and she sagged into the couch again, smaller than she'd been all week. Linda, we're behind. Me, on what? Linda, the roof quote, insurance, Mark's mess. Me, say the real reason. Her jaw trembled. Linda, I took a personal loan. Aaron, Mom. Linda, I didn't want to tell him. I kept my voice flat. Me, how much? Linda, 27,000. The number didn't shock me. It explained her speed. Me, whose name is it in? Linda, mine. Me, and you thought my metals would patch it. Linda, I thought buyers would be quick. Me, and quiet. Linda, yes. Aaron's voice stayed controlled. Aaron, did Mark know? Linda, no. Aaron, then stop using him as a shield. Linda's throat worked. Her voice dropped into something almost honest. Linda, I resented you, she said. I resented how this town looks at you like a statue. I resented smiling at dinners while you stayed somewhere else. I resented being second place to ghosts. She rubbed her hands together, anxious. Linda, when people thanked you today, they looked through me. I was the wife in the background, the smiling frame. And then Mark started begging, and I felt trapped. She swallowed hard. Linda, I felt like the only thing anyone respects in this house is that trunk. So I thought, if I turn it into cash, maybe I can finally be useful. A reflective thought slid through me, clean and sharp. Love doesn't die in one moment. It dies in 1,000 small permissions. My voice stayed low. Me, You were useful when you stayed honest. Linda. Are you leaving me? I walked to the foyer table and set the purple heart box down. I closed the lid gently. Me. Tomorrow, you're coming with me to the foundation office. Linda. Why? Me. We document what's missing, in writing, with signatures. Linda. You don't trust me. Me. Trust isn't a feeling anymore. It's paperwork. Erin's phone buzzed. She checked the screen, then looked up. Erin. Dad. You need to see this. She turned the phone toward me. A message from Tom. A photo attachment. It was a screenshot of a new listing. Same marketplace. Same seller account. Only this time the item wasn't a medal. It was the folded flag from Michael Turner's funeral. And the pickup time read, tomorrow morning. It was the folded flag from Michael Turner's funeral. And the pickup time read, tomorrow morning. For a second, I didn't breathe. The photo was clear. Blue field, white stars, perfect triangle, but laid out on our dining table like folded laundry. Linda leaned forward, squinting. Linda, I didn't list that. Her voice wasn't defensive this time. It was confused. Mark shook his head hard. Mark, Mom doesn't even know where that is. Me. I do. I didn't raise my voice, and I didn't need to. The folded flag wasn't in the cedar trunk. It wasn't in the spare room. It was in the safe in my closet, behind a steel door. Combination changed last year. I turned slowly toward the hallway. Erin followed. Linda stayed frozen on the couch. The bedroom felt cooler than the rest of the house. Shadow pooled near the closet. I opened the safe. The flag was still there, exactly where it belonged. I stared at it for a long second. Then I closed the safe door gently. Back in the living room, I held Erin's phone up again. Oh, that listing is fake, I said. Linda blinked. Mark frowned. Someone copied the first one, Erin said quietly. Same seller name, but the account creation date is today. Mark grabbed his own phone and pulled up the marketplace page. Someone's using Mom's username, he said. They added an extra number at the end. I took the phone from his hand. The username was almost identical. Almost. Lakeside Reseller 33 had become Lakeside Reseller 33_. A ghost account. I looked at Linda. You told anyone about the login? I asked. She shook her head. No. Mark hesitated. I used Mom's laptop last week, he said slowly, for my job applications. I held his gaze. Did you log out? I asked. He swallowed. I don't remember. There it was. Not malice. Carelessness. The second listing wasn't Linda trying again, and it was someone watching the chaos and stepping in. Predators smell vulnerability faster than sharks smell blood. I dialed Tom. He picked up on the first ring. Tom. Ray? Me. It's a copycat account. Tom. I thought so. The grammar's off. Margaret joined the call within minutes. Margaret. We've already flagged it with the platform. Me. The flag is safe. Margaret. Good, because that one carries federal protection. Linda exhaled a shaky breath. Her shoulders dropped, like something inside her finally unclenched. Mark ran a hand down his face. This is my fault, he said. No, I replied. It's ours. Linda looked at me, uncertain. You didn't list it? I asked her one last time. No, she whispered. I believed her. Not because I wanted to, because her fear was different this time. We sat there together, up the four of us, in a house that had felt like a battlefield all week. The fireworks outside grew louder, red and white flashes through the blinds. I stood and walked to the den. The Purple Heart box waited on my desk. I picked it up and carried it back into the living room. I set it on the coffee table between us. Tomorrow, I said, we go to the foundation office. All of us. Mark looked up. All of us? Yes. Linda frowned slightly. Why? Because this isn't just my legacy, I said. It's how we choose to handle it. I opened the box and removed Harrow's letter. I handed it to Mark. Read it, I said. He hesitated, then took it. His eyes moved slowly across the page. When he reached the line about Michael's mother asking who stayed, his jaw tightened. He looked up at me differently, not calculating, understanding. I turned to Linda. You wanted to be part of this? I asked. Then be part of it. She nodded once, small and fragile. The room didn't spin. It felt grounded. The next morning, we walked into the Ridgeview Veterans Foundation office together. Margaret greeted us without surprise. Papers were signed, statements documented, access changed. And in that quiet, fluorescent-lit office, something else shifted. I transferred full operational control of the scholarship to Foundation oversight. Irrevocable. Linda signed a witness acknowledgement. Mark signed as secondary witness. Trust is not rebuilt with apologies. It's rebuilt with ink. 2 weeks later, the returned medals were mounted in the glass case. The folded flag remained in my safe. Not hidden. Protected. Linda came with me the next time I visited the hall. She stood beside me when a high school senior shook my hand and said, "Thank you, sir." She didn't smile for the room. She stood still. Present. We are still married. But the legacy no longer lives in a trunk, and it no longer depends on silence. The medal hangs under glass now. Light hits it every afternoon through the high windows. It doesn't shine brighter than before, but it stands. Some things aren't for sale. If this story struck a chord, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you think in the comments.